Good evening, everyone. I'm Shannon Rutherford, the town planner. This is the Plan and Zoning Commission for Farmington. I will start with a roll call of the commission members. Matthew Bandel.
Here.
Robert Canto.
Here.
Rosia Afshar.
Here.
Scott Halstead.
Here.
David St. Germain.
Here.
And our acting chair this evening, Liz Sanford.
Here.
And then I've got alternates Bruce Polsky,
Here.
Mike Tucci,
Here.
and Kyla Zimmerman. Okay, at the moment, I'm not seeing Kyla on. If that changes, we'll let you know.
Okay, great. Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us here in person and online. My name is Liz Sanford. And I am the acting chair as Scott Halstead cannot be in the room today. It's March 25th, 2024, and welcome to the Town Plan and Zoning meeting. Dave, can I have you read our public notice, please?
Absolutely. Notice is hereby given to the Town Plan and Zoning Commission. Will hold a hybrid in-person and online public hearing on Monday, March 25th, 2024 at 7 p.m. in the Town Hall Council Chambers on the following applications. Bradley Finocchio, application for special permit to construct new home and pool in Ridgeline Protection Area and expanded home access in excess of 4,000 square feet of living area and 5,000 square feet of total area, not to exceed 7,200 square feet in total, located at 8456 Main Street in an R40 zone. EBM Pabst Incorporated, application for special permit and site plan approval for addition to building and related site improvements at 100 and 110 Hyde Road, CR C1 zone. Farmington Town Plan and Zoning Commission application for amendment to the zoning regulations to comply with Public Act 23-142 regarding family and group child care home. Interested parties are encouraged to participate in this hybrid public hearing. Participation in person is at 1 Monteith Drive, Town Hall, Town Council Chambers, or online participation is via the link to the meeting on the Town of Farmington's website shown here. A copy of this proposal is also can be found online or by calling Planning Department at Farmington Town Hall at 860-675-2325. Dated Farmington, Connecticut, the 7th day of March, 2024.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we have both new business and some public hearings. We'll take care of the new business first. Let's start off with Luke McCormick. Please come on up to the podium, state your name, and we'll get all your visuals up.
Hello, my name is Luke McCormick. I'm a freshman at Farmington High School, and I'm also a Boy Scout. Thank you all for having me tonight, too. I'm presenting about installing a baseball equipment shed at IAR. Personally, I've played at IAR for the past couple of years, and I will be continuing to play there this year and possibly next year, too, as the field at the high school was taken away because of construction. And some things that we've encountered over the past couple of years would have been like not loss of like equipment and tools that we needed to use on the field, which sometimes even resulted in having to cancel games because we couldn't maintain the field properly. So this equipment shed will be used for tools such as rakes, chalk lines, tarps, and other things that will help maintain and keep the field in better shape for Farmington Little League and also high school. In regards of funding, I've already reached out and talked to Farmington Little League. They've approved of this project and they're going to help fund most of the project, along with some fundraising that I've done in the past. So the funding is covered. The size of the shed, it's 8 feet by 8 feet. It's going to go right behind the backstop on that little red area. So it's easily accessible right near the fields. And then the plans are also attached to the shed. It's made out of wood. It's a really good size. Like we went to Lowe's and stepped in it to get like a good feel of it. We think it'll cover basically everything that could be needed for the shed for the materials, plus a little more just in case stuff happens. And that's pretty much it. There's not much else.
Okay, thank you. Now it's time for commissioners. You can ask some questions. Matt, do you have any questions?
Are you planning on painting it?
The paint color was pretty good. It's going to be a dark color. I don't think we're planning.
I think we're thinking like a hunter green kind of blend with
Yeah,
the area and also for the pictures. Looking at it. you know,
Sure.
it can't
Yeah,
be
it's
like
not distracting.
Falls off the bat, stuff like that. Yeah.
and we were potentially maybe thinking about getting like a local artist, like a student or someone that wanted to help come down and maybe paint like a Farmington logo or something small on it just to kind of give it like a personality.
Great. Awesome. Good presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Bobby?
The only question I have, I think it's a great idea, but I know the high school's going down there to play baseball now while they're in building phase. Has anybody made sure that you're not duplicating efforts? Like do they have that in the budget to take care of that? I'd hate to see you guys go through all this.
Yeah,
And then them say, well, we already had one planned, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
we've been in contact.
yeah, so we've like been kind of partnering with Farmington Little League because this was definitely something that they wanted to have done at some point. And so I'm kind of just helping them and organizing it for them, and we're just kind of collaborating on it.
But the head coach and the assistant, they're aware.
Yeah,
They're aware.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to see you
Yeah, I
guys
know.
duplicate your efforts since they're moving the baseball fields down
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Okay.
With respect to the high school, we've been in touch with Sam Kilpatrick, the facilities director, and Matt Mortarelli, the athletic director. They're both aware of the project and they've both
Signed off.
signed off. Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Mhm.
Good luck.
thanks.
Okay. Rosia?
No questions for me. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Dave?
That's a great idea. Can you talk a little bit about how you're going to put it together?
Yeah, so me and other scouts and anyone that wants to kind of help out, we have a carpenter friend who's gonna come help oversee it too. But it should be kind of a quickish 1 to 2 day thing, 1 day for kind of leveling it out and the second day for constructing and building. But we definitely have a good amount of people that are gonna come help work on it.
What's going underneath it?
There's gonna be rocks, like a layer of rocks to help for drainage, but we're also gonna like kind of box it in its little own area with some wood and other material.
4x4s to kind of box it in against the concrete
Mhm.
and then just like some kind of stone to kind of help it.
Drainage.
Drainage. And with less like,
All right,
in
great.
theory, so.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to go back to Scott online.
Yeah, thanks, Liz. Great job, Luke. Is it going to be locked when it's in use? Is it going to be some kind of combination lock on it or something?
Yes, there'll definitely be a lock on it when it's not in use. Yeah.
Great. And no other questions. Great job.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bruce?
Nice presentation. No questions for me.
Mike?
Great presentation. I was at the Wilcox Bushley House when a Boy Scout was building their shed and it came out great.
Thanks.
Forward to your work.
Thank you. Is Kyla online?
She has joined us. She's sitting under attendee. Let me see if I can get her. There we go.
Okay.
Hi, no questions.
Okay, thank you. Well, Luke, you've done a good job. As a mother of an Eagle Scout who my son had to come and do one of these presentations too. It's a wonderful cause and I'm really glad you were able to find a project that is near and dear to your heart. That's wonderful and it will benefit the whole town. My one question is is there any sort of racks or storage or anything inside, or is it just
So, it's definitely gonna be open, but we can add shelves if needed. Because I know also some of the funding is gonna go to we're also purchasing the actual materials in it. So, based off what their list is and what they need, we'll decide on shelving based on that.
based on that? Okay, great. Well, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
and
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate it. And now we need to have a motion and a second to approve this.
I'm going to try it.
Go for it.
Motion to approve the site plan by Luke McCormick for Eagle Scout project to install baseball equipment shed at 20 Wolf Pit Road.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, passes. Congratulations
Thank
and
you.
good luck.
Thank you for having me.
Are we okay to proceed? Do we need to follow any, like?
I'll follow up.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, either Garrett or I'll send a follow-up email and we'll just need a timeline, really.
Great, thank you very much.
No,
Thank you.
you're all set to go.
Okay, now the next order of business is CMF Group LLC, 45 South Main Street. Do we have a presentation? Come on up.
My name is Monica Wang. I own the Yume Japanese restaurant located in 45 South Main Street, Yulianville. We've been doing the business for about 15 years. And our customers always ask us to add a karaoke. We didn't do it because we've been so busy. And while Friday, Saturday are crazy, so we cannot do it anymore. But after the pandemic, we see something changed. And lots of people never come back because they prefer to stay home. And they order DoorDash, delivery, they don't see people. And some still coming and they talk to us, my friends start at home. If you can have some entertainment for us, I can invite them to come out with us. Yeah, we've been thinking about it because while the business is still good, but a big portion, I say very good portion, go to the delivery. And the third parties earn lots of money because they charge us 30% for the commission. And while the customer don't come out, I still have business. But for my workers, waitress, bartender, they don't earn that much. I have to think about them. If I would add the karaoke, I may invite more people to come back. And while I keep busy on Friday and Saturday, I can do the weekdays. I cannot do every day. And I can do 8 o'clock after that dinner stop, not busy. I can have the karaoke. I can do it at the bar. And hopefully I can help the business. I can help my staff get more tips and some more money to go home. Not only for the third parties, they are huge company. They make lots of money, but not for us, not for my staff. So I come here today. I wish I can make the dream come true. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Matt, questions?
2 questions.
Mhm.
Are you going to maintain the same working hours that you currently have?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And where in the restaurant where exactly would this be placed?
Yes, there's the, you know, CVS. It's the same building.
Oh, no, I know that, but
Mm.
inside the restaurant.
It's at the bar. I will at
At
the
the bar?
bar.
Okay.
And I have a company. It says FM Productions LLC company. Right now they are hosting Butterfly karaoke. They are very experienced company. They bring all the equipment. They bring the host. So at least is hire them. They come over, do the setting and host. So actually I don't need to do anything. I just pay for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob?
What days were you thinking?
I'm thinking Thursday night and Sunday night because we are not that busy on that 2 days.
Thursday and Sunday. And do you have like a rough time that you're gonna start and end?
No, no, because the FM production company will bring everything here they came already. They see the setting. They say they are okay with it.
No. What time? What time are you planning on doing the karaoke?
8 o'clock after 8,
After 8? Okay.
and 2.5 hours maximum.
4.5, you said?
2.5 hours.
2.5. So the only thing I can think of, how many people do you plan on bringing in? Do you think are gonna come more?
My bar is not very big.
Right.
It's around 20 people. That's it.
So you're taking room out of the bar to put the karaoke in, is that it? Like seating?
I have bar there. I don't need to. Yeah, there's around 20 people can sit there.
Right now?
Why not? Yeah.
Okay, and once you put the karaoke in, how many people are gonna be able to sit there? Still 20?
It won't be more. I will make reservation. Yeah.
Okay. The only thing I can think of is on Thursdays and Saturdays, in the fall time, you have sports, you have football. So with Iron Horse going and them and all that, that might cause a little bit of a traffic issue in the parking lot. But other than that, I don't.
It's sport day, they go to Iron Horse, not to us.
Right, but we still have to worry about parking. That's why I was asking how.
Yeah,
many
yeah,
people
yeah.
Are planning coming in.
I cannot predict how many people
Right.
will come. I cannot answer this question, sorry.
Okay. I'm good for now.
Okay, thank you. Rocio?
Thanks for coming. Off of what Mr. Cantor was, Commissioner Cantor was saying. So you said you're making reservations. So based
Yeah.
on that, you can,
They need to reserve because my bar is not too big. Once it's full, I won't take any more.
so you can predict how many people are going to, or you have a head count as to how many people you're allowing to reserve beforehand, right?
Yeah, 20 is maximum.
20 is maximum.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's not going to change.
It depends, if nobody comes. You don't
Maximum
know.
is 20.
Yeah,
Right.
I would say that maximum.
Okay.
I just guessing, When
Right.
it's full, you stop. You will see when they call. When they call you, you full, you say no more.
Thank you. And one more thing, you may have mentioned it, but I just wanted to confirm with you that it's going to be held indoors and not outdoors. at
Indoor,
all.
no outdoor. We have no room for outdoor.
That's it for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Dave?
Hi,
Hi.
does your place have a patio where people can eat?
We don't open it. I don't like it because it's behind the building. It's lots of trees. It's not belong to me, the trees. I cannot touch it, so I prefer indoor.
Okay. And I think my only concern would be the noise coming from your place to other places that are nearby. Have you checked with them? Have you tested that out to see how loud it might be for the other places?
I don't hear anything from next door. Next door is the Iron Horse. They're very loud, but I don't hear anything. So I think it's okay.
I have no other questions.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Scott?
No questions from me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bruce?
Nothing new to add.
Thank you.
Mike?
Nothing for me. I am a frequent karaoke goer. I go to Zen Bar a lot, and it'd be nice to have
Yeah.
something like that in Farmington.
Yeah, because they say there's nothing in here.
There is nothing.
Nothing. They have to go all the way to West Harvard. But I'm having the company to do the same. So they're very experienced, so I don't need to worry about that.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
assuming it's almost like, well, bars hire trivia people to come and do their trivia and then they leave. That's what I'm understanding from what you're explaining.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Kyla, any questions?
All the questions I had were addressed. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you for your presentation.
Mhm.
It sounds like there's a need in town Everyone needs to go and sing some ABBA or Queen or something. I don't know. Um, and it sounds like you've taken into account the size of space and you're keeping it small. So all my questions have been answered also. So anything
you
else
so
come
much.
up? Nothing new? Okay, so can I have a motion?
Great. Motion to approve site plan submitted by CMF Group to allow entertainment, specifically karaoke at Yume in the restaurant.
Give the address.
Yes.
Did you
Oh,
give the
I'm sorry.
address?
No, I did not say the address. Thank you.
Okay,
Located at 45 South Main Street.
okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
I,
Aye. Any opposition? Okay, motion is passed. Thank you
Thank
for
you,
your
thank you,
presentation. And
thank you.
Shannon will be in contact if there's any paperwork.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good night.
Okay. Okay. So we are now moving on to our public hearing portion and of the meeting. And just a brief explanation how the public hearings will proceed. The applicant will present to the commission. Commissioners will then ask questions. Then we'll open to public comment. We'll start with comments in the room. We will check online. We'll also see if there's been any correspondence that's been received. And then if you are here to speak, we want to hear everyone. Please try and keep your comments to 5 minutes. And if you are speaking and discussing something that's already been presented, feel free to say, I support what the preceding person said. Okay. And that's okay. It's fine if you agree. And this is just, we want to share these guidelines to be respectful of both the public and the commissioner's time. We're all up here out of the goodness of our hearts. So public comment is extremely valuable in our decision-making process. So thank you for being here. And I'll have my first applicant. Please.
Can I address the chair?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. You need to address the chair.
Madam Chairwoman, I'd like to recuse myself. I am a neighboring property.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Commission members. For the record, my name is Stephen Judas. I'm with the Office of Cole Civil and Survey. We're located at 876 South Main Street in Plantsville. I'm here tonight with the applicant, Brad Finocchio, who's in the back of the gray, and his architect, Jack Kemper from Kemper Associates. We're here tonight regarding property known as 8456 Main Street. This is an existing lot of record, also known as map 150 parcel 19A. The map that Shannon has up on the board behind me of the perimeter of the property. It's a 4.48 acre parcel. It's 194,000 square feet, and it's located in R40 zone. Frontage for this property technically is does not have frontage. Mr. Finocchio owns the house in front, and he will be providing access to the property through his existing parcel, doing a little bit of a land swap in order to grant this property frontage off of his existing home before he starts construction on this, should it move forward. The lot is currently wooded with mostly mature hardwood. This property has a little bit of a high point in this area, but generally it slopes to the west, and then a small portion will slope to the east. The topography generally up in this area is relatively moderate. There was a slight drop off right where we're proposing our home. And then this area here is our ridge line, which is delineated by this purple line, and this dark area is our area of what we would consider slopes in excess of 50%, which is defined as a ridge line per your regulation. As I mentioned, the remaining topography is pretty gently sloping, and it's a very nice parcel of property. Our proposal for you tonight is to construct a 6,456 square foot single family home on the property, which is outlined in this area here. This property would have an attached garage. We're proposing a pool house or pavilion at this location, and a proposed pool, and an accessory shed along this property line here. Our driveway access, as I mentioned, would be by way of Forest Hills Drive, and our house would be serviced by public sewers and a private well. There's a sewer main that runs out into this area, and we're proposing to connect out to that sewer main and provide sewers at that location. We're also utilizing a series of oversized rain gardens on site. These are identified by these areas here, and here. Original application had another one at this location, but we are going to increase the size of this one to pull that one outside of the 75-foot upland or review area. The reason we're here tonight is because we're proposing activities within 150 feet of a ridge line. Your regulations define that line as a portion of the mountain that maintains a slope 50% or greater for a distance of 50 feet or more by existing conditions. And we generally have that point right in through here. We did a field topography of this site and identified this area, and anything west of this is slopes off at a pretty steep rate, and the rest of the property has a gentle slope to it. As I mentioned, that westerly portion is about 326 feet of the lot has that criteria for ridgeline. Your regulations call out two regulated areas. There's a 75-foot area, which is this line here, and then there's a 150-foot area. The way I understand it, the 75-foot area, if it's a lot of record and it needs to be utilized, applicants can come before this commission asked to use that 75 feet. Otherwise, generally, we'd like people to stay out of it. And that's what we've tried to accomplish with this plan. We did have a rain garden in there, but after conversations with staff, we agreed that we'd rather just get it out of there and have no activity within that 75 feet at all, and move that rain garden to a location that would still allow it to function properly and keep it outside of that area. Our proposed activity within I would say the other 75 feet, this 75 feet, includes, we're going to proposing grading, some clearing. We have the pool house that I mentioned. And these are all these activities are required permission from this commission. However, as I mentioned, we're not proposing any grading or any activity in this area. This would remain all still wooded. And one of the things we discussed with staff today was supplementing this slope from the top and along this line with additional landscaping, evergreen and deciduous trees to provide year-round screening for this proposed use. So other things that we've taken into consideration, our slopes in this area maintain a 4-to-1 slope, which is a very maintainable, mowable slope. Eliminates any long-term erosion issues, having a gentler slope in that area. Our rain gardens will mitigate runoff and allow for infiltration, which is a good thing around for drainage. And it protects any of the budding downhill properties from impacts due to the development of the property. We're proposing a full erosion sedimentation controls throughout the site during construction. We've talked about today with staff about wood chip berm as on top of silt fence and hay bales to make sure that erosion is taken seriously and handled during the course of construction. The other thing I wanted to know is just that your regulations do allow about 40% impervious surface within this 75-foot area. Or I think, Shannon, is it 75 or the 150 total?
It's within the 150 total.
Right. So we're nowhere near those numbers. And within that area, we're probably in the 20 to 25% at most. So we're way below that 40% threshold. That's the main bulk of what we're proposing. However, another part of our application has to do with the size of the home. You also have regulations restricting the size of a home in an R40 zone to 4,000 square feet of living space and 5,000 total gross area. Our proposal with this home is a total gross area of 6,456 square feet and a living space of 4,948 square feet. So we're slightly above those numbers. And that's part of our application for you tonight. Some of the considerations I think for this commission regarding the home size, we believe the size is consistent with abutting houses in the area. We think based on the size of the lot, over 4 acres, that it's reasonable for the size of the parcel. And we don't believe that this house will have any adverse impacts to neighboring properties regarding the size or the footprint of the home on the property. When it comes to the ridgeline protection, we talked about what we're proposing. When we looked at this site, the first thing we did is we met with staff. We talked about what would be acceptable, what wouldn't be acceptable, and trying to achieve the vision of Mr. Finocchio and Mr. Kemper and still protect the resources that we're trying to protect. So the house originally was a little further to the west into this area. The pool and things like that were a little closer to the 75-foot line. We did have a rain guard at this location. So we've moved the house so it's completely out of the 150-foot area. We've moved the pool back. We've changed the slope. We've modified this area so we can just do our rain guard at this location. And we tried to accommodate the concerns that might arise as we move forward. The other thing that we talked about a lot is about the view. Obviously, people want to live on a hill for a view, but people down at the bottom of the hill don't want to see the house at the top of the hill. And that's I think part of the reason the ridgeline protection is here. So we did look at this and we talked about the proximity of the trees. We did do a balloon test and we raised the balloon up at the height of the ridgeline. Unfortunately, it was still below the tree line, so you really couldn't see it. But what I can tell you is that the slope continues and the trees continue to come up. When we get to this location, the trees at this location are still higher than what we're proposed. And I will show you a profile in a moment about that. Actually, you know what, Shannon, I'm going to have you put up that profile. I'm going through my list and I think I'm at the profile time.
No problem.
So this is an attempt to give you an idea. This is our lot. This is our slope. This is the ridge line. This is our 75-foot. This is an old image that shows that old rain garden that has been eliminated. And this is the 150-foot here. So if we look at the profile, you get an idea of the slope, the 2-to-1 slope that comes up. And this is where it transitions into not a ridge line, but this is the first 75 feet. And this is the second 75 feet. This gives you an idea of the height of the house, the peak. We have a shed in the backyard as well. And these are the trees. We did measure the trees that are out there. They're very large. They're 50 to 60-foot trees. And this allows us to provide protection from downhill views of this home. And what we talked about with staff was adding additional landscaping in this area because the trees are so high, most of the canopy is up top. So our attempt is we're going to plant this slope with deciduous and evergreen trees to provide a lower level of protection from downhill areas as well. I think Bruce and Shannon went out and took pictures from various locations. The house next door is relatively prominent. You can see it, but I think it's a much different bear than what we're proposing. The clearing is much further away from the house, allowing the line of sight to have a better view of the home. So we thought that this was a good exhibit to show you the size and the mass of the trees that we have on site and how what we're proposing will not have a negative impact downhill. As part of our working with staff, We did receive some comments last week. We went through those comments. We've agreed that they're addressable from our perspective. Didn't see any deal breakers there. We feel like the applicant has taken pretty good adequate safeguards to minimize any visual impact with leaving, we didn't come in asking to clear cut everything. We understand what the concerns are and why this regulation is in place. We tried to provide adequate buffering and supplementing the existing buffer with additional buffering as staff sees fit. We believe I know from a special permit perspective, you have to take into certain considerations into effect. Viability of wildlife was one of them. The majority of our site will still remain completely wooded. We don't believe that we will have a negative impact on any of the wildlife resources in the area. Groundwater quality and recharge is one of the things that you need to consider. Our rain gardens are basically in compliance with the new MS4 regulations. So they do provide infiltration and they provide runoff compensation for increased impervious surface as well. They've been oversized to protect any downstream properties and allow for more infiltration. We also are confident that the ridgeline will remain stable and protected by our, even with our proposed activities. As I mentioned, there's absolutely nothing proposed for anything in the ridgeline. It'll stay as is in perpetuity, and it will remain stable and protected. Again, we're not proposing any activity within the 75-foot area, and our proposed house we build is consistent, reasonable in size. It's really only about 3.5% coverage when you look at our size of our property in relation to the footprint of the home. We think that it's a reasonably sized piece of house for the size of the property. There's a million things that go through my head when I try to do these things. If you have specific questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them for you or for Brad or Jack. Brad and I started this project 3 years ago. I think is when we met with staff, and unfortunately kept saying, take your time, no rush. And that's how these things go. So 3 years later, we're here. I think it's been a learning curve for my crew. Putting up balloons and doing profiles like this is not something we normally do, but in the end, I think it helps give you guys more comfort as to what we're proposing, and profiles like this help as well. We do have the plan set in the file if it's something that you want to look at, and we're here to answer any questions that we can. With that, I think that the application that we've presented does meet or exceed your requirements for zoning. And, any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, excuse me. Thank you for your presentation. Let's start with commissioners' questions.
Sure. I'm curious about the balloon test. Do
Mhm.
you have any photos that show that?
I did send those to Shannon. I don't know, it was a while ago.
I don't have them electronically.
Yeah, so the balloon test, the photo would just show the balloon in the woods. It's not going to show you, you can't see it from any of the roadways or any of the abutting properties.
Staff went out and looked and we couldn't, even our photos, it was a balloon in the middle of the woods that was
red balloon.
3 foot
red. There was a
diameter.
red and a white. And
We
it
hung
was,
2.
40 feet up. They had a survey stake and it was roughly 35 feet
35
at
feet,
the
yeah.
midpoint of the ridge of the home.
We actually put it at the ridge. We hung,
Did you put, okay.
yeah, we
so
actually
then
set it at
was-
the ridge.
was a little higher than there.
Okay.
But it was, there was a survey stake with the ground elevation, the length of the string or rope really that was attached to it. And they were roughly 2 to 3 foot diameter balloons, a red and a white. Staff went out and looked, but again, there weren't
You couldn't see
the photos because the trees are 40 to 50, 60 feet tall. We couldn't even see it from Forest Hills Drive, and that's how we access the property. If you start to take the trees down and open up the site, then it wasn't going to give us the perspective that we needed. Unlike a cell tower, when they do a balloon test for a cell tower, the cell tower is 100 feet, right? It's typically above the tree line. This wasn't going to be above the tree line.
Okay.
So.
All right, this application definitely feels reminiscent of 62 Pinnacle from July of last year. And I don't really have any questions. I'm good.
Okay. Mr. Canto, excuse me, I was gonna call you officer. I don't
Right.
know where that came from.
Retired.
Uh, Promotion.
I'm impressed with the balloon test also. I'm glad you went to the extra lengths. Did you do core testing? Are you gonna have to blast or?
So we're not sure on the testing. We plan to go in at some point and do some test pits. I know that if there is blasting, we'll have to come back before this commission, something we talked about today with the applicant. He's gonna need to take a few trees down to go in and do that. We didn't want to, I told him, don't do anything until we, until we come and see you. So we've been kind of waiting to see how this proceeds. The next step would be some soil tests, and if need be, we would come back with a blasting request for this commission to consider.
Okay, and then the low-lying tree plantings that you're talking about, do you have a rendering or do you have I guess types that you're planning on putting in?
I don't, we had this conversation kind of came up this morning, and I was kind of leaning on staff saying, is there something you guys think we should put in there? We're more than happy to accommodate. And I think the request was something mixed. So we had, you know, a series of deciduous trees and evergreen trees that would different heights and would also provide screening year round is what our goal would be. But anything that we would do, we would vet out with staff to make sure that they felt it was appropriate. Shannon, I don't know if you have any comment
No,
on
the
that.
only other thing that I would add is that we were looking at, as Mr. Judas noted, it was a mix of evergreen and deciduous, and to fill in gaps if there are any, because it is a wooded area. So until we start to take down, we don't know where those gaps are exactly.
Right.
So it might be a clump of some trees in one area instead of just a straight line of 10 to 15. But the idea is that the rule of thumb is that they will be spaced 20 to 25 feet on center so that the canopies have an opportunity to mature. So it wouldn't necessarily be overly dense initially, but I think based on what we've seen this evening with the profile, I think we're really going to be looking at filling in some gaps as opposed to needing
Straight
a
lines.
full straight across.
Yeah, because I drove out there today and it was eye-opening. I didn't realize how far up you can see, and there's a couple spots out there that are blank.
Yeah.
But you know, nothing's budded yet. So I'm
Right.
sure once the leaves come in, it'll hide things a little bit better. You seem to have the offset done, so you know, I'm good.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Roja.
Well, thanks for your great presentation and made things understandable.
Thank you.
It was a little complicated at first.
Sometimes I'm not sure.
Documents. So thank you. Just one question. I know you touched upon the fact that the ridge line is healthy, but when I'm looking at the picture there's a, you know, the tree and the top of the house that they're aligned, right? So how healthy are the trees? Because I guess my concern is for you to build the house and then the trees are unhealthy and then you cut the trees and now they're
Most of it is very healthy. I didn't do a per tree inventory, but when you're out there, it's a very healthy feeling from a woodland perspective. Anything that we do, we wouldn't cut anything or grade anything within the canopy of the tree, and that usually protects the tree from damage, and it keeps the tree healthy and it allows it to survive. So we would make sure that we stayed outside of that canopy and didn't have any impact on the trees that were going to remain.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Dave.
Good presentation. This is very helpful.
This was last minute. We put this together today. I was trying to think of how we can just give you guys a better understanding of how massive the trees that are out there are, they really are, and they're going to remain. So that was
Appreciate
helpful.
this view.
Thank you.
Couple questions. What's the area of the proposed walkout basement?
The area of the basement, I have to I'm going to ask the architect that question instead of guessing.
And also, I'll, just add on to that, is that included in the 6456 square feet?
I don't believe it is. I don't,
No,
no,
it's not.
It's,
Nor is it required to by regulation.
Okay.
The basement is not included.
okay. So I don't believe it. You have the.
It's approximately the same area as the first floor.
Okay.
Is of the basement. Yeah, without the garage. Yeah, Shannon and I went back and forth a couple times to see what's included, what's not. The basement, the garage space is included. The garage on the first floor, the basement is not included. Oh, Jack Kemper Associates, Farmington, Connecticut. So the first floor is 26, or I can't read it.
Great, you got it.
2663. I'm getting new glasses in a week, by the way. So
You
that's,
know what, on an 11 by 17.
yeah, I know.
luck.
I know. It seems so handy when I'm printing it. So the basement is the same square footage as that. There's no basement under the first floor garage. So.
So I just learned about rain gardens yesterday and read up on them. You said the impact on the other properties would be minimal. Can you talk a little bit about how they work for people who don't?
Right. So the rain gardens, I can't say they're new. They've been around probably 15 years, 20 years but it's something that's become more and more prevalent as we get into the requirement to infiltrate water. Generally, stormwater in the past, management was all about decreasing the peak rate of runoff. And it was more or less, it didn't really take into account volume. So when we designed a site, we would figure out how much water runs off this site today and how much water is going to run off the site when we're done. And we have to build a big detention basin in order to accommodate that flow. But all that does is slow the water down. It doesn't actually change how much water leaves the site. So the rain gardens are designed to have specific sands and soils put into the bottom of them and specific plantings with them. So what happens is when it rains, this rain garden will fill up with water and I don't mean to the top where it's going to crust over, but it will generally hold water for a period of time, and the water will infiltrate and the plant life will also will drink up the water. It allows stormwater, allows for reduction in volume, but also accommodates the reduction in peak flows that we were always concerned about. And the where else was I going with that?
The quality.
The quality, water quality. Yes, thank you, Shannon. Stormwater quality is the other major thing with rain gardens because any suspended solids get kept in the rain garden. So generally what you'll see, like what we design, is you'll have multiple rain gardens throughout the site instead of one big detention basin. And the rain gardens are designed to fill up. And then if they do become filled, they will generally overflow and allow water to travel in its natural state through the rest of the topography. So they can't be put everywhere. And you really have to watch where they're discharging and how things are working. But by separating them into different locations, we have a lot of room. We have decent sized gardens here, and the applicant was in favor of them and thought that it was suitable for this site. So they're a good thing overall.
It seemed like.
Yeah.
The shed, it seems kind of close to the property line on the other side there. Can you talk about
It
that?
is, we just went by the regulations. And I could be wrong. I thought it was a 5 or a 10-foot setback.
The requirement is 5 feet.
And that's why, that's just how the placement came. If there's a preference, I think, we could adjust it if you felt 10 feet is more appropriate.
All right. I have no other questions. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Scott,
Yeah, thank you. So just a couple quick things. I assume there's going to be some, probably not hitting the 40%, but some additional impervious service around that pool and such. Are there plans in place for decking or anything like that?
So we did have the pool is really kind of a future thing for
Yeah.
Brad, not something he proposes to do anytime soon. We talked about having pavers around the pool, or, we did incorporate, like I said, the rain gardens are oversized. So if we do have some additional impervious surface around the pool, we can accommodate that from a storm drainage perspective. But we don't have specific plans for the pool at this time. He's not even, we're trying to boot and suspender this and think of everything that we possibly in the future may want. So you have a clearer picture of the direction he'd like to go. But I think what we talked about today is if he does go forward with the pool, obviously you have to come back for another permit. And if it doesn't fall within the numbers that we allotted for, then we would come back before this commission and ask for you to review that as well.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you. And then you're comfortable with where you're at with the engineering comments the town staff have provided? You feel like you can
Yes.
meet what they're requesting? Okay.
Yep.
All right, I think I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Bruce?
I think when you showed us the balloon test, the peaks of the trees and the top of the roof were roughly equivalent to each other. So
Yeah, I mean, this tree is approximately, I want to say, a 60-foot tree, and this is where the existing topography was here. So that tree was actually up higher than the roof. So when we hung the balloon, we hung it at this point, but it was into the canopy of the tree. So you couldn't, unless you were standing on it, you couldn't see it. And we looked at, obviously, that when I saw that, I was like, I don't know what to do with this. Shannon, you guys need to go take a look at this.
So your client wants to build a house with terrible views because it's blocked by trees.
It's not that he wants to, but we understand that it's a sensitive issue. So we're trying to be sensitive to that. For him, the house is more important than the view.
Understood. When campaigning for a role on this commission last fall, I walked Forest Hills and knocked on just about every door there. And one of the universal complaints of all the residents there was drainage issues, and people who had never had water problems before in the 15 years that they lived there were starting to experience water problems. So even with what you've described, I'm still worried about some of your downhill and downstream neighbors with respect to drainage. Could we talk about that a little bit more and illustrate why that you think that's not going to be a problem for them?
Sure. I can tell you that when Forest Hills Drive was constructed, there was a detention basin on Brad's property that probably doesn't function as well as it should have. We have talked to staff about making some changes to that and during the course of this process to try to help that situation. More water leaves the pond than it should, I think, is the concern. But generally, what's happened in this situation, in this neighborhood, is that you have a bunch of lots that were developed years ago, and then you have a bunch of lots that are kind of left over that are starting to get developed. So as those lots, even though they were approved 15 or 20 or 30 years ago, the drainage requirements 30 years ago are much different than the drainage requirements today. So I would say 90 to 100% of the homes built on Forest Hills do not have any drainage mechanisms on site. They don't have any detention, any rain gardens. They don't have any detention basins. They probably have one or two for the roadways, but the individual homes have never been required to provide any type of runoff mitigation. And to be honest with you, if we weren't coming before a special permit, this plan may have been looked differently. And we may have said, we don't need this because it's not required for home construction. But because it's a special permit, it's open to additional review by staff and by this commission. So we knew that it was in our best interest to address this issue up front and provide the rain gardens. And so this is going to be the most well maintained and designed drainage system for any of the houses on that road. So this one is above and beyond what everyone else has done. And Shannon, you can agree with me or not, or give me a nod, say basically yes or no, or he's crazy, but I'm open to anything you got. But
Elaborate that statement.
well,
No, it is basically, I don't take issue with anything Mr. Judas just shared with you.
Yeah.
I would say it is basically correct. The other thing that the challenge we had with last season and last year was the 5th wettest on record since they started keeping records since the 50s. So everybody was wet, all corners. And with that, certainly also understanding this is also a trend, right? We are having more wet seasons, more rain, less snow, less dry periods. So it is something to be mindful of. But you've got to try to balance that with, it was historically wet last year. So that was a challenge in and of itself. But Mr. Judas is correct in that the detention basin on the existing property that fronts onto Forest Hills Drive is, there are some work that's going to be done on the outlet structure that they've agreed to do as part of this project.
It needs some tweaking. That's all.
Correct, with the out, and it's just with the outlet so that it'll store the appropriate volume of water that it is currently not doing. And then it's correct with respect to that home. So any of the homes that come through now, they have to have either a rain garden or a roof infiltrator system so that the first inch, or now 1.3 inches based on the new design guidelines, will be infiltrated into the ground, which historically was never done. In any of the homes that were built in the 70s, 80s, 90s, most of our roof leaders just go out onto our driveway or lawn or wherever and then go. These now are required to go into the ground, and that first inch of runoff then goes into the ground. Anything larger than that, yes, will overflow, but you get the majority of the storms will then be directed into the ground.
Thank you. That was really helpful. One last question. Want to go back to the 6,500 square feet.
Mhm.
It is pretty large. Why does it need to be that? It seems to be actually quite a bit bigger than neighboring houses. Why does it need to be that large?
That's a good question. I'm a land guy. I'm gonna hand that over to you.
I mean, generally, the garage is not included in square footage of houses. So this house of living space is 4,900. So, and we're adding a lot of square footage as dictated by this regulation, the oversized or the, the correct size. So that regulation envisions the bulk of the house. Living space is quite a different thing. So it's quite a bit. So the garage is the garage is 13 or 1,500 square feet. So that's, to answer your question, that's why it's big. The size of the house, I mean, we've worked on design several of those houses, and it's certainly in line with the size of the other houses up there.
Thank you.
Mhm.
That's all for me.
Okay, thank you. Kyla, do you have any questions?
No questions for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, this was quite a helpful and informative presentation. Thank you. A lot of my questions were answered. I do have one or two more. How long is the driveway going to be, since it kind of has to sneak around? I'm just curious. It seems, because it goes off the plan and then on to get to Forest Hills. I'm just
Yeah.
kind of curious, because that's, again, more impervious surface, so.
It is, yes. Wait a second.
600-ish feet, what do you think?
Okay.
I'm gonna go about five
5 to 6?
5 to 6, yeah.
Do I
I'm
hear
using my
50?
laser pointer to scale, so it's 255. I agree, that was one of the comments from staff was regarding the impervious surface on the driveway, and that's where the improvements to the existing detention basin kind of came in play. The basin is a good basin. The only issue really is that the outlet control has a very large orifice, so smaller storms go right through it. It's only when you get a very large storm does water actually pond in it. So what we talked about was providing a smaller orifice to restrict the smaller storms. And that's really what we want. We want to hold those smaller storms back because they're more frequent, and that will protect the downstream areas. And then when the larger storms come, it'll go over the top of that structure and will flow like it normally does, like it's doing now, but only when it gets to the larger storm. So that additional retention is intended to compensate for the length of the driveway and above and beyond. We really could add another rain guard and probably be fine with the driveway, but this seemed like a win-win for us and the town.
Okay, great. And the access road back to the proposed pool area,
Yeah,
is that paved? Is that?
it'll just
okay.
be like gravel or grass. and
Okay.
Something like that. Yeah, it's just
That's the way to
just
get
for
there.
a couple times a year to get back there. He'd like to have that access, but
Okay,
nothing, no hard surface.
no hard surfaces. Okay. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, now, is there anyone in here who would like to speak about this, Mr. Finocchio, sorry. The proposal? If so, please come to the podium, state your name and address, and address the commission. Anyone? Okay. No one here. How about online?
I'll check online. So if anyone has called in to offer comment for the application for Bradley Finocchio for 8456 Main Street, please raise your hand using the feature in Zoom and you'll be acknowledged to address the commission. Again, if anyone has called in to offer comment for 8456 Main Street for the home on the Ridge Line, please raise your hand using the feature in Zoom. You'll be acknowledged to address the commission. Madam Chair, there are no hands raised.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any additional questions? Anything that's come up? Anyone needs to ask? Anything?
I have one other.
Yes, Dave.
So thinking of the trees in the ridgeline and then the possibility of digging up for the pool or the house, is that going to impact the root system? Since you said the canopy of the tree was pretty large and usually roots extend beyond that.
No, sir, the pool, that won't be anywhere near the root system. I'll be definitely far away with that.
Thank you.
Okay, anything? Yep, we got a couple more things popped in. Okay, Matt.
Pardon me, got my brain going on this one. Given the last year, there's been 4 applications regarding tree removal within the ridgeline. Shannon, is there a mechanism to control to make sure we don't end up back in that same scenario as they start clearing trees?
For an accidental removal, you mean? So for this application, what we have requested, and I believe one of the engineering comments, Mr. Judas can correct me if I'm mistaken, but I believe one of the comments was to require that the limit of clearing be staked out and for staff to review prior to any clearing taking place. And that would be the very first thing. So before any clearing, stake it out so we can take a look and then, and just come to an agreement so that if we need to slide, because sometimes it's like, okay, they just come in and come through. It's like, okay, but that's a beautiful, whatever, oak or sycamore or peach tree, whatever it is. And say, can we jog around? Can we at least try to save it? So we'll have the opportunity to do that. And then once it's cleared, before they start taking all the stumps out, we require the erosion control to go in. So those are the protections that are in place. I believe that was a comment or something that we had.
I don't see it. I know we talked about it this morning even.
Okay.
And that is standard for our projects is to field stake the clearing limits. So there aren't any concerns, but we'd be happy with that stipulation. Brad's here. He was involved in that conversation this morning and he's well aware of it. There's no excuses.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Did you have something else, Bob?
Shannon, are we missing anything? Are you good with this?
I don't think we're missing anything. No, I think they were very agreeable. They requested the meeting this morning and it was a cordial, agreeable meeting to try to reach some consensus on these limits.
Okay. Yeah, and I agree with Matt. I think I'd be a lot more comfortable if it was staked and.
Mhm. Okay. I agree. And something else just popped into my brain. I was rereading the actual article, the actual regulations.
Mm.
And one of the things that came up was in terms of color of houses and reflectivity of windows and things. But if we're maintaining that tree coverage,
Right.
that won't be a factor. Is that,
Yes,
that might
I would,
correct?
I would agree with that.
Okay. Okay, I just didn't, because I know sometimes you get the building that has the huge picture windows and
The
then
glass, yeah.
for 15 minutes, you can't see anything because it's you know, if you're at the right angle. So the trees would
The
be
trees would block that, yeah,
like that.
absolutely. I don't think we have a ton of glass in the back of the house anyway, but there's obviously some windows.
It's some windows, but okay. That's a good thing. Those are good in a room. Okay, so last call. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Okay, thank
Good.
you very
Thank you
much.
very, very much for your time and consideration.
Okay, so right now we are going to close the public hearing. And we as a commission need to understand what we're voting on and make sure. And Shannon, you had mentioned that we should separate these.
My suggestion is for two votes, since it's not a special permit with site plan, they're two distinct special permit applications. I think it might be easier for the commission. That's just my recommendation.
Okay, so that makes sense to me. So in other words, we would have a motion for the special permit to construct a new home and pool in the Ridgeline Protection Area. And a motion to for the expanded size.
The expanded
correct?
size I would
As
request that
present-
one be as presented.
As
So,
presented.
Right, there's been some shuffling with the area, so I think it's just easier to do
Good.
it as presented.
So, okay, commissioners, we understand what we're voting on. We're feeling good?
One question. So
Yes.
with the movement of the house now, is it no longer in the Ridgeline Protection Zone, really voting on the shed and pool being in the Ridgeline Protection Zone?
It's the clearing for the house. So again, if you note it as presented,
Okay,
then I think that it covers us appropriately then. It's a helpful statement to have in there. It also then anything that the applicant and his professionals have testified to locks that in as well.
Okay,
So clarifying,
yes.
are we going to condition it so that the applicant work with the town about the clearing and everything? Is that we're going to put a condition on it?
We can do that.
You can, and that would,
Okay.
I'd recommend that go with it's more appropriate from a Ridgeline. So that could go with the Ridgeline application.
Okay. Are you up for
I'm
a
just
motion?
about
He's
there.
crafting.
Can you say
I'll-
the rest
I'll
of what
speak
you
again.
said?
So that
Ah.
we condition the motion or the special permit, if I'm right,
For
correct?
the ridge.
On the applicant's cooperation with the town of Farmington. As to clearings and tree cuttings. Am I missing anything? Shel?
Nope, you got it.
Okay.
You got it. We tend to wordsmith it a little bit. It's not a verbatim. So we'll wordsmith. it.
Oh, good.
Sandy will
Make me sound
massage
good.
it. Sandy will massage it and make it good.
All right.
So do I have a motion concerning the application for a special permit to construct a new home and pool in the Ridgeline Protection Area?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the application made by Bradley Finocchio for the property located at 8456 Main Street for a special permit to construct a new house and pool as presented in the ridgeline protection area in an R40 zone with the stipulation that the applicant continue to cooperate with the town of Farmington as to clearing and tree cutting on the property.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? So moved. That is approved. Okay, number 2, are we ready?
I would like to make a motion to approve application for a special permit made by Bradley Finocchio for the property located at 8456 Main Street for an expanded home as presented in the R40 zone.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, so it is approved. Good luck in your, thank you for your presentation and happy constructing. Okay,
Madam Chairwoman, shall I go find Mr. Tucci?
yes. We're just gonna go find
I
our,
think Garrett just wants to go.
oh, Garrett went, okay. We
Yeah.
have to get our things. So. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, while we are getting Mike, we will move on to our next piece of business.
Maybe I assume.
That.
You can't find him.
Uh-oh, he's run away.
Make some popcorn. He'll be with us in a minute.
Mike,
Excuse me.
Oh.
right, he recused himself because it was, he's a neighbor. So, oh, here we go. We found him. We tracked you down.
Yeah,
Okay,
really.
Finish your popcorn.
yeah, snacks. Yeah, snacks. Should have sent you out for snacks. That's what. Okay. Excuse me, I keep clearing my throat. Okay, our next order of business is to hear from EMB Pabst Inc., 110 Hyde Road. Yep, come on up and state your name and let us know what's going on.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Tim Griffin. I'm a civil engineer with Lorero Engineering Associates in Plainville. I'm here tonight to present the project on behalf of EBM Pabst, the applicant. And Bill Aston's also here present, as well as we have Mike Safone on the online. In case there's any questions, they're representing the client, EBM Pabst. In case there's any operational or questions about the operations of the business. I'm going to present on the actual site work component of the project, as well as touch on the building addition and the overall scope, and really focus on the site layout and conformance with the regulations, as well as drainage. So the site's located at 100 and 110 Hyde Road. It's over by the Robertson Airport, by the walking trail at the intersection of Johnson Avenue. And there's 2 addresses because right now currently there's 2 separate buildings that comprise the business, but they're currently 2 separate parcels. So part of the project is going to be a lot merger of the 2 parcels. Reason being is, number one, because the proposed building addition, where the proximity of the existing building is to the property line, our addition would bisect an existing property. So we're gonna need to make it all one contiguous parcel so that if the property were ever be transferred in the future, we wouldn't have any conflicts with the building being in 2 properties, it would all be on the same parcel. And number 2, from a zoning compliance standpoint, when we treat the 2 parcels as one, we're able to achieve zoning compliance for coverage and parking and things of that nature when we view it as a campus or an overall basis. So this is just a plan proposing the lot merger for the 2 parcels. In addition to the 2 parcels, we do also have some easements on the property, which we've been coordinating with the utility companies, the DOT, and basically the owners of the easements to make sure that there's no conflicts and the project is done in a way that complies with all their regulations. If Shan, yep. This is just the existing conditions plan. Pretty much is showing the existing building. So the 110 parcel is the subject of our site work. Right now, the two buildings, the number 100 building is for the mostly office space, and the 110 is for engineering and the manufacturing component of the facility. So this is just the existing conditions plan. You can see in the bottom left corner of the page, that is the existing building that we're going to be adding onto. And adjacent to that, just to the north or up on the sheet, is the existing parking lot. The main things to touch on here is just that in the existing condition, we have two access points, or two connections, I should say, from Hyde Road, where the cursor is right now is the main entrance. And then we also have a secondary truck exit down at the bottom left corner. So right now the site's access from those two locations, and then we have a parking lot and then the building. That's the main focus of the existing conditions. This one I'll kind of breeze through quickly. This is just the site preparation plan. So just the typical, we're going to do the initial erosion controls, install an anti-tracking pad, install perimeter controls, and then we're going to proceed with the preparations for the new building addition. So the hatched area there, that shows portions of the existing paved parking lot and driveway that we're going to need to remove to accommodate the new building. The new building addition is going to be right about where the cursor is right now. So that bank of parking, as well as that adjacent separate parking lot, if you will all be removed, as well as some minor tree clearing and just general demolition activities. Going on to the layout plan. What we have here is we're proposing in a new building, as I mentioned, so approximately 15,000 square feet. The use of the building is going to be manufacturing, and it's going to have a drive-through truck bay. So we've also proposed to coordinate with that. We have a separate driveway connection that's off of the existing driveway. So no new roadway connections, but we are going to provide a separate route for trucks. Right now, the trucks need to circulate through the parking lot in order to get over to the loading area. So we're going to make a new truck-only access route, and we're going to separate the regular passenger vehicles from the truck traffic. And as I mentioned, we're also going to have a drive-through loading dock bay. So what's going to happen is the tractor trailer with a flatbed will pull into the site. The doors are open up. The building's long enough to accommodate the full truck. So the truck will pull in, drop the trailer, close off the doors. And now all of the unloading and loading will all be taking place indoors. So there's not going to be any disruption from noise or just people seeing all the fork trucks and stuff moving around. Everything will be done inside for the main material offload. And as I mentioned too, it was done in a way we're not adding any additional roadway connections, curb cuts, nothing like that. And from parking standpoint, we did have to omit some parking to accommodate the new building, as I mentioned earlier. But we're going to reconfigure the lot in a way that makes sense, where we need to blend into existing, of course. So we're going to remove some spaces, but we're also going to just reconfigure the lot adjacent to the new building addition. And that's where the overall compliance comes into play. So while we did have to lose some parking, on an overall basis, when you factor in all the existing parking and the fact that this building addition is for manufacturing, but it's not going to cause an increase in the number of staff or the number of employees per shift. So therefore, per the regulations, it doesn't dictate additional parking requirements. So the existing parking requirements are still going to govern for the proposed count required, and we're complying with that on an overall basis when both buildings and both parcels are considered together. Then just here, parking stalls, parking aisles, all that kind of stuff for in compliance, lot coverage as well with the regulations. Okay, and then this is the grading and drainage plan. So we did focus heavily on water quality as well as the general attenuation of peak flows. We are in an aquifer protection zone, so we did take that into account. We focused on groundwater recharge with the MS4 compliance permit. And we're also proposing a couple different means of water quality improvement. So we do have a subsurface infiltration system currently proposed that has a built-in isolator row, which is a dedicated row that receives the first flush. So we have an inlet control structure where the water initially will enter that row first, and water will not start to rise up and spread to the other rows until that chamber has become full. So the purpose of that is it's lined with a geotextile, so it gives you a finite location where you want any sediments or anything to enter the infiltration system to accumulate. and it gives you a single point of maintenance. And just upstream of the infiltration systems, any water that's collected from the paved driveway, we do have one structure that's going to be collecting water and sending it to the infiltration system from paved areas. That inlet structure is a Context CDS or equivalent treatment unit with a grate on top. So it's functioning as both an inlet structure and a treatment structure. That's basically a hydrodynamic separator. It's going to capture and collect any suspended solids, any floatable trash, as well as any oils, so floatable oils. And it's also going to be able to capture an oil spill during dry weather. We confirm that with the manufacturer, and it could store up to 61 gallons of collected oil or gasoline or diesel. So that's pretty much the main water quality focus. In terms of grading, we're trying to limit clearing and disturbance as much as we can. So we're pretty much just coming off the existing bank at the edge of disturbance. We're sloping inwards to the site. So we're not going to have any drainage that's draining off site, from overland flow. Everything's going to be coming inwards. The driveway's been graded out, appropriately. We have a flat area near the loading dock as expected. And there's, as you can see, there's no disruption anywhere near the public walking trail or the public sidewalk right now. So there's not going to be any disruption to that. And in terms of the drainage design, we accounted for 2 separate design points. We have some wetlands north of the property, northwest, where there's existing outfalls. Right now, pretty much most of the existing parking lot drains to those wetlands via catch basins and pipes. So that was one of our design points. And then we also have a second design point down at the bottom of the sheet there, where we have a lower portion of the parking lot, and that drains to the existing municipal town storm sewer. So we analyzed both those points of design, and we're reducing the peak flow to both points for all analyzed storm events up to the 100-year event. So we did take that into account as well. And this is just the erosion control plan. It's pretty general. As I mentioned, pretty much everything here is either pretty flat or it's sloping inwards to the site. So we have some, in the protection on catch basins, we have dedicated stockpiling and concrete washout locations. We have the anti-tracking pad. We're going to have erosion matting on any slopes that are over 3-1 or about 33%. And we also did receive some comments that we'll take into account adding some perimeter controls at the top of the ridge, just as a secondary belt and suspenders measure to make sure no sediment goes out towards Hyde Road. And this is the landscaping plan. So if you guys have driven by there and before, you'll see that the property is very well maintained. It's very nicely taken care of. And there is a nice looking, planting scheme going on. So we want to make sure that when the job is done, that's maintained. So similar to the previous application, we want to mix in deciduous trees with evergreen trees to provide a year-round screen. And we're also matching the species of trees that are there today. So the majority of the clearing is going to be, a few select linden trees, which we're going to be proposing back in kind, as well as some evergreens and some dogwood trees to give a little bit of, some flowering appearance, a little bit of visual appeal. And then we're just going to be seeding anything else. It's not going to be hardscaped with lawn. And we did also do a photometric analysis to make sure that the new area is going to be properly illuminated. The majority of the parking lot is going to remain as it is today. So existing lights are going to stay. We will be taking, I believe it's 4 existing light poles that are currently either within the new building footprint or they're in a location in the parking lot that we're going to be changing. It doesn't make any sense to keep them there. So we're going to relocate those 4 poles elsewhere on site in order to illuminate the new driveway and just spread out the light better across the whole area within our work area. And we've demonstrated here that we have, adequate lighting and we're in compliance with the regulations. There's no off-site bleed to neighboring properties. And then these are just our standard construction details. I don't need to go into depth in these, but this basically just shows us all the cross sections and all the specifics of how things would be constructed and, the physicality of how they'll be built, how it relates to what's shown on the site plans. And I can show the buildings too, just a real quick overview. So the main intent of the facility addition is to look in kind with how it currently is today. So when you're driving by, you're not going to notice anything that looks new or out of place. Right now, it's an existing brick masonry structure on the bottom half or bottom third or so. and then the upper portion is metal sheeting. So that's what we're proposing here is we're going to have, you know, a poured foundation. We're going to have exposed brick facade for the first, you know, 10, 15 feet. And then the remainder upward will be the metal sheeting, you know, same color as the existing building, everything like that. And in terms of the drainage on the roof, so the existing building roof, it's a flat roof, but it does have pitch from one direction to the other. So it's not a gable roof. It pitches completely one way. So we're going to put in, you know, basically match that same intent where at the bottom of the existing roof, we're going to put the new roof and then continue that pitch out where we're going to have a new gutter system to collect the flow. And then the roof drainage, as I mentioned, because the existing roof will be falling onto the new roof, we weren't able to isolate just the new roof as its own drainage area. So in order to compensate for that, we basically are going to be achieving via split of the gutter and separate downspouts, a portion of the new building addition roof, as well as the same inline portion of the existing roof that's going to flow onto it, will be directed into the infiltration system. And the amount of total roof area going to it is going to exceed the footprint of the new addition. So that's how we're going to mitigate the roof drainage. And the remainder of the roof drainage is going to continue to go to a dedicated outfall like it does today with a 15-inch HDP pipe. That's pretty much my presentation. I take any questions you guys have. And as I mentioned, we do have representation from the operations side as well, if that's something you guys need.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's start with questions. Matt?
I don't know if you've seen this yet. Have you seen the letter? It looks like it's dated today, from Connecticut Water.
Yes, I have. Yes. So he's referring to, we've been going back and forth today. We did just get today back some comments from Connecticut Water. Being in the aquifer protection zone, we needed to notify them just like we would notify the abutters. So we did initially get some feedback that they had some concerns with the infiltration system. Of course, being in the aquifer protection zone, they want to make sure the aquifer is being protected, as the name implies. So initially, there was a bit of discomfort with that, and we did have conversations. I know she spoke to Shannon and Bruce. She spoke to me, and I kind of talked her through it. And the main thing I think was that when she saw the stormwater treatment unit and how it functions, she was more comfortable. And then we do have to also take DEEP into account. I know DEEP is also in the mix now, and they want to give their input as well. So there might be some minor drainage modifications required to the system, but we will, make sure that we comply and make everyone happy with both DEEP, the town, and the water company. We'll make sure everyone's comfortable with the design that's ultimately constructed.
Okay. Within that letter, they also reference, minimizing pesticides, fertilizers for all landscapes. That's something the client can live with.
I haven't seen the letter yet. My name's Bill Aston.
Yeah, thanks, come on up.
The junior, Bill Aston Junior.
Okay.
Some relation, but don't hold it against me. Yeah, it's something we can look at for sure. I mean, we do our standard landscaping.
Okay.
So we've been using the same people for a long time. So we are ISO 14001 environmentally conscious. So I mean, this may be a good objective to talk about, but yeah.
You might have.
We're not
Might have
putting
already be there.
Yeah, we're not going to put anything.
Okay. And then the last thing within the letter was providing a spill plan, which is pretty standard. I don't see that being an issue there.
Yeah, no, we can certainly provide it, even though on the plans as well as a little narrative or something. Sure.
Okay.
I think we were one of the first people in the aquifer management plan, so we have a plan for that plan. We're in the stormwater permit with DEEP, and we have a SBCC plan too. So.
Okay.
Standard industrial plan.
All right, I'm good. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, Bob?
Just as in reference to like the building, dumpster material stored on site, where's all that going to go? Do you know?
So there's going to be a roll-off container associated with the manufacturing space for any scrap metal that's generated during the manufacturing process. So that roll-off container will also be inside the building, and then that will be picked up by a roll-off truck, basically back into the bay, pull a container out, and then it will take it off site to dump. So
So that's all gonna be contained. We don't have to worry about any spillage into the aquifer or anything like that.
Correct.
Right. And digging for the foundation, are we keeping all that material on site or are we falling off?
We would need to see, obviously, if it's suitable material. I don't know offhand if the site is a net cut or a net fill. I do know we're doing a decent amount of cut to bring in a new driveway. And then I don't really see any need to do any significant mass filling. So I would anticipate it would probably be taken off site unless a need came up, or we find a place we can lose it. But my initial gut feeling is that it'd probably be a haul off, a net export.
All right. Yeah, I'm good for now. We had the other question, so, yep.
Okay, thank you. Roja?
Well, thank you so much for your presentation. Great job. Seems like this addition is gonna make lives easier for everybody, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
You mentioned DEP, that they also have some concerns. Do you know what their concerns are?
So their concerns are also with the infiltration. So they also had a similar note about the pesticide use, because initially, the initial thought was that their main concern was that we had impervious area. Some of the driveway was going to it, and it sounded like, you know, the preference would be to do only roof area and landscaping. And then when the letter came out, it also referenced about minimizing the pesticides, and that was a little bit iffy too. So their main concern is just the infiltration system as well, making sure that they know, you know, the source of the water is going to be entering the system. And their main concern is that they want demonstration that the water is going to be clean, you know, both coming out of the treatment unit before it goes into the infiltration system, as well as in the infiltration system itself. So their main focus is just on the water quality of the water that will be infiltrated into the ground potentially. And then potentially, you know, like I mentioned, might need to make some minor modifications just to make them satisfied, depending on where we kind of go from here. So
So you are flexible to work with them if the
Yes.
request is reasonable?
yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you. No more questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Dave?
Hi, yeah, nice
Hi.
job.
Thank you.
The question, like more traffic wise, are you expecting more truck traffic due to the addition of this? I know you're not having any new cuts or anything, but.
I don't believe so. Is that correct, Bill?
Yeah, we're a growing business.
Mhm.
And what that area is sheet metal fabrication. So right now the truck backs in, but it's, we get truck deliveries probably 3-4 times a week now. And I don't expect any additional. The area of manufacturing is not sheet metal. We're making more assembly benches. We bought we're localizing a whole bunch of our manufacturing in Tennessee also, unfortunately, down there, just stayed up here, but we are sending like assembly benches. So it's a whole engineering divisions of the machines that make the fans. So that's what we'll be manufacturing in that spot. So it's not more of the same manufacturing, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So I don't expect any more truck traffic that way.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, great. Scott, online, or? did
Yeah,
you
I
have-
think all mine have been asked. I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Bruce?
With the removal of the 40 parking spots and the new addition, are you still ADA compliant?
Yes, so actually I didn't mention that, but so the existing ADA count is actually over what's required. So in order to kind of compensate for the fact that we're taking away parking spaces and we still need to meet both ADA and overall general parking, we did incorporate, it's not connected to the building addition, but we're in the same vicinity. We're going to be repaving and restriping the existing ADA stalls that are there. So in the current condition, the space is allotted for those, the access aisles, the crosshatches are there, but the actual, the accessibility symbols are actually blacked out. So, and it's also pretty cracked up. The pavement's failing there. So we're going to repave the entire ADA strip. And we're going to be putting in, you know, new ADA compliant spaces dimensionally. And then where we have the excess room, you know, by now sharing the access aisles, which is now allowed per the Connecticut code and ADA code, we're able to add a couple of standard parking spaces there too, to kind of help balance out both the general parking and the ADA. But yes, on an overall campus basis, between these new stripe spaces and the existing on-site, we do meet ADA compliance. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm all set.
Okay, great. Mike, any questions?
Yeah, when you were explaining the filtration system that could catch potential chemicals or whatever.
Yeah.
Does that kind of function like a retention pond?
No, so that functions like a manhole structure, just an inline structure. So within that structure, there's several different components. The floatables, such as trash and also any suspended solids and sediment, it goes through a vortex process where basically the water comes in and it goes into a baffle, and then it goes into a swirling motion. And in that swirling chamber, anything that's floatable, like paper cups or stuff like that, will float up to the top, and it gets trapped inside this chamber. And then any heavier sediments or things of that nature will settle out to the bottom of the sump. So basically, through that motion, the clean water then exits the pipe.
Okay.
And then furthermore, they call it an oil baffle skirt. It's basically it's a filter that exists in between the inlet and outlet pipe. And the way that it was explained to me from the manufacturer today, because we wanted to get really nitty gritty on the oil, especially if there's a spill during dry weather, how that thing functions is that the difference in the specific gravity and the density of water versus diesel or versus oil, it will only let water through. So when it receives just oil or gasoline directly, it will just direct that flow directly to the storage chamber, which is where it has a 60-gallon capacity. And then during a normal condition where you have storm water, maybe there's some miscellaneous drips of oil from a car or something like that, that gets suspended into the water where it floats on the water surface, and that will also go up into the floatable bay up there. So,
Okay.
yeah, so it's more of just a structure that treats it, and then it collects the debris, and then it sends the clean water out.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. And Kyla, do you have any questions?
I just had a quick clarifying question. My background is in aerospace, and I heard you mention ISO requirement. What was that ISO requirement? Just I would like to familiarize myself after this meeting with it.
So it's a voluntary organization we've done for years. ISO 9001 has to do with the quality of your product. ISO 14001 is the environmental piece of that.
Okay, thank you.
Is that okay?
Okay, all set. Thank you, Kyla. Okay. Thank you for your presentation. Answered some questions. I have a comment. One, thank you for explaining how the manhole works. I've never quite grasped it so well. I appreciate that. And then the other thing is, where on the property is the aquifer recharge area? I'm just curious, because that was the title used in the letter, and I'm just curious to know what portion of the lot it's in.
So the entire parcel lies within the aquifer protection zone.
Okay.
So I don't know exactly where. I don't believe there's a specific wellhead or something like that they're referencing. I think just in general, the area and the surrounding area contributes to the aquifer eventually. Once it enters the ground, it eventually gets to a certain point where they pull water from. So there's no specific point that we've been made aware of. It's pretty much the entire area falls within that zone of regulation.
Okay, great.
Put the aquifer map up on the
Mhm.
board. So this
Okay.
is the entire FIP aquifer.
Oh, okay.
It traverses the southern portion of Irvington and the northern portion of Plainville. It just cut off on our town line. I believe the wellheads are in Plainville. There is some CT water land here right on the border. Yeah, Connecticut Water Company. So there may be wellheads here where there's the 8042 and 8403 properties. But the EBM PAPS properties are across the street to the north of Hyde Road.
Okay,
So
thank you.
they're
welcome.
not properties or wellheads on these.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone in the room have any questions or public comment? Okay. Okay, we'll check. Anyone online, can you check, Shannon?
So if anyone has called in to offer comment regarding the EBM PAPS application for 100 and 110 Hyde Road, please raise your hand using the feature in Zoom and you'll be acknowledged to address the commission. And I do have a hand raised. I got too many things popping up on my screen. There's a hand raised. Albert, please go ahead if you would, full name and address and address the commission, please.
Hi, my name is Albert Tomaso, 1 Eaton Place, Farmington, speaking on behalf of our business at 175 Scott Swamp Road, the Connecticut campus, which we developed and co-own from the Tomaso Group. So as the northern neighbors to the site, we just want to say that we've had a long relationship with EBM PAPS, not directly as customers or clients, but just as neighbors, and we can attest to their excellent work as corporate citizens and stewards of the property, and that we'd want to support their needs to grow the campus and economic development in Farmington.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you.
If anyone else has called in to offer comment regarding the EBM PAPS application at 100 and 110 Hyde Road, please raise your hand. Using the feature in Zoom, you'll be acknowledged to address the commission. Okay, there are no other hands raised, but we do all enter into the record the letter that we received from Connecticut Water today that was referenced and was shared with the commission. The hard copy was shared with the commission. The original was emailed to the engineer. In general, I'm not going to read it in word for word. It's showing on the screen here and captured in the recording. But Connecticut Water has had an opportunity to review the application in reference to their aquifer, as I showed on the screen, the FIP aquifer system at the south end of Farmington. They understand the drainage patterns and the infiltration system, as well as the Context CDS hydrodynamic separator. At this time, they are finding that there is not an issue. They understand that the roof, the majority of the infiltration will be roof, approximately 21% is pavement. And they are not taking issue with this application at this particular point. However, as Mr. Griffling noted, we have received a subsequent, there's been some email dialogue back and forth with DEP. So there may be some modifications to the drainage system, and that will be done in concert with CT Water and DEP. There's a little bit of a push and pull, if you will, with DEP, in that our MS4 requirements want infiltration to the maximum extent practical. The aquifer is fine with infiltration as long as you can verify that it's clean stormwater and ensure that protections are in place. So there's some discussions that need to take place to work through that.
Okay, thank you, Shannon. Any other questions, concerns, comments? Bob?
Yeah, I just, one question on the hydrodynamic separator. Is there a schedule in place to maintain? And how often does it get cleaned out or maintained?
Yes, so we do have, on the plans, we have noted a maintenance schedule. And I do know as part of we had a pre-application meeting with Shannon and Bruce. With the MS4 permit, they're gonna require proof of the stormwater inspections and the maintenance. But we do have notes on the drawing. Basically, it's at the minimum of an annual maintenance period. The way the structure is configured, it's basically just a standard manhole opening. So you can easily open it up. You could periodically check on it. And when it does become time to clean it out, it's just a simple vac truck, pull up right to it, drop the tube in, suck the stuff out. So yes, we do definitely expect you to maintain that as required, and that would be annual at a minimum.
Is there a life expectancy to them, or is it more like a manhole and it just?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's mostly, good. It's same lifetime as this typical manhole in terms of the structural integrity for the concrete and stuff like that. This system is, I'd say, more long lasting. There's some filter systems on the market and stuff like that where It's basically an underground vault with these, they call them jellyfish or stuff like that. There's these underground filters. Those do tend to clog up. The nice thing with this is that it has the main intent and function is that it has a spot that's intended to collect debris for removal. So in terms of long-term function, as long as it's cleaned adequately, it's the function of it maintains itself and it works well. So.
Gotcha. Perfect.
Okay, great. Anything else? Anything? Okay, I'm prepared to close the public hearing. Okay, so thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
And great to hear that the business is expanding. That's good news. Okay. Now, okay, does everyone understand what we're gonna be voting on, what our purview is?
Yes.
Okay, feel good? Are you ready, Dave?
Are we
I'm-
looking at adding conditions?
Does anyone feel any need to add any conditions?
I think it would be appropriate to add the condition that applicant works with DEP and CT Water to the satisfaction of staff.
Okay,
Yes.
is that doable, Shannon?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay.
And again, the as presented, because they acknowledge receiving staff comments and agreeing to them, so.
Okay. Okay, so the good old as presented,
At the end.
yeah. Okay,
So we don't need to add the condition, is that correct? Or we do add the
Um,
condition?
give it a shot.
All right. Sorry, Shannon, are you suggesting we add the conditions or just say as presented?
As presented, and then I think Mr. Bandels' comment about the agreement to work with CT Water and Deep to our satisfaction.
Great. All right, I'd like to make a motion to approve the application by EBM Paps Inc. For a special permit and site plan approval. Oh, I'm good.
Oh.
For addition to the building and related site improvements on 110 Hyde Road in the CRC1 zone as presented on the condition that they continue to work with Connecticut Water Company and DEP regarding stormwater infiltration system to the satisfaction of our town planners.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you very much.
Good evening.
Okay, I don't know, Garrett, the crowds are pressing in. Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
All right, so good evening, everyone. For the record, Garrett Daigle, Assistant Town Planner for the Town of Farmington. Tonight, I'm going to be presenting a proposed text amendment related to family and group childcare homes as required by Public Act 23-142. So just some background in the 2023 legislative session, the General Assembly approved Public Act 23-142, an act concerning certain protections for group and childcare homes. The act prohibits zoning regulations from treating a family childcare home, which is 6 or less children, and group childcare homes, which is 12 or less children, located in an existing single-family residence differently than a single or multifamily dwelling. Previously, only family childcare homes had been prohibited from being restricted. And then as a condition of the Connecticut General Statute, the town has to certify to the Office of Policy and Management every year that the regulations are still in compliance with this act. And for anyone that's curious, it modified Connecticut General Statute 8-2, Section D1. So real quick, the first part that we're going to modify is Article 1, Section 9, definitions. We'll be adding daycare center as a definition. Daycare center was an existing use in the regulations, but since we were adding family and group childcare homes, we just decided to add in definition for daycare. The regulations already had definitions for family daycare home and group daycare home. We're just switching that to child to match the state statute, and the definitions are in line with the state regulations for these types of uses. So the main change occurs in Article 2, Section 1, which is the R80 40/30 zone. It changes under permitted uses family daycare home to family childcare home, adds group childcare home under permitted uses, and removes group daycare home from only allowed by special permit, because we can't treat it differently than a single or multifamily home in the zone. This is going to be the boring part. It's just going through all the sections, so it's part of the record. In Section 2, the R20 zone, Section 3, the R12 zone, Section 4, the R12 Lake Garda zone, Section 5, the R9 zone, Section 6A, the R9 Oakland Garden zone, Section 8, the residential multifamily zone, Section 9, the senior adult zone, and Section 20, the R9 multifamily cluster zone. Will remove group daycare home under special permit and add, and then for all those sections, it refers back to Section 1, which is the R80 30/40 zone, which allows family and group childcare homes by right. So that's the easy one. And then in all our kind of multifamily or mixed use or specialty zones, which is Section 21, the Unionville Center Zone, Section 25, the Affordable Housing Zone, 25A, which is our Housing Opportunity District, 25B, Southward Opportunity Zone, and 25C, New Britain Avenue Opportunity Zone, Section 29, the Farmington Center Zone, Section 31, the Special Innovation Floating Zone, and Section 32, the Midpoint Development District. It adds family childcare homes and group childcare homes to allowed by special permit, as single and multifamily is only allowed by special permit in those zones. We have reviewed this regulation with our town attorney, and he agrees that if a single and multifamily requires special permit, then we can require that the daycare homes require special permit. And as I stated, in most of these zones, in most of the residential zones, daycare center is a separate use allowed by special permit. And that's it. Yes.
Okay, take a deep breath.
Only took 6 or 8 months to get through.
Ooh. Talk about wordsmithing and crafting. Okay, let's ask some questions. Matt, any questions?
I don't have any questions. Good presentation.
Yeah.
There you go. Bob?
Your presentation, no questions.
No questions for me. Thank you.
Okay, don't even get a chance to ask. Good.
No, thank you.
Bruce? Oh, I forgot. Scott?
That's right. I don't have any questions either. Continue.
Okay. Bruce?
No questions.
Mike?
I'm all set. Thank you.
Nice and easy.
And Kyla?
No questions.
Okay, wow. Let me think. No, thank you. That's an important but meticulous and rather not the most exciting work. I understand, but
No,
appreciate your work.
hopefully later this year we'll have some exciting ones for you, but
Well, not too exciting.
No, this is good.
We'll just temper it, even keel. Okay. Thank you very much. Seeing there's no one here for public comment, anyone online?
We'll just check online if anyone's called in to offer public comment regarding the zone change regulation, change to the regulation regarding family and group childcare homes. Please raise your hand using the feature in Zoom, and we'll acknowledge you to address the commission. Again, if anyone's called in to offer public comment regarding the regulation text change to group and family childcare home, please raise your hand using the feature in Zoom. Madam Chair, there are no hands raised.
Okay. Any other questions? Nothing's come up, nothing popped up. Okay, I'd like to close, seeing as next, close this public hearing. Now, commissioners, do we all know what we're voting on? Any questions? Any concerns? Take it away, Dave. Your motion.
I would like to make a motion to approve the application by the Farmington Town Plan and Zoning Commission for amendment to zoning regulations to comply with Public Act 23-142 regarding family and group child care home and daycare center.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Say
Aye.
aye. Any opposed? And hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you very much. Now the state can't come and yell at us, shake their finger.
Now.
Okay, you're up, Shannon, for the planner's report.
I am up. I'm trying to decide which order I'm gonna do these in. I'm thinking I'm gonna do this in reverse order, because why not? We're gonna start with 150 Scott Swamp Road. And this is the storage facility on Scott Swamp at the corner of New Britain Avenue and Scott Swamp and the Thomaston Bank. And there currently have been some American flags that they put out at the frontage of the site. It's kind of a temporary measure. They wanted the flag there, but it's not really a permanent solution for what they were looking for. So they contacted our office and have put forth a request for the installation of a formal flagpole at the front, more closely to the Thomaston Bank side. And located in this, it will be illuminated. The initial request was for a 40-foot pole. I called him today and asked him if he'd be agreeable to 35. He said he would. The peak of the Thomaston is at 35. The peak of the Thomaston Bank is at 29 to 30 feet roughly. We think the storage unit itself is a little, perhaps a smidge higher or right around that same height. Certainly as you're heading eastbound, the pedestrian bridge blocks the view. It's only really as you're heading westbound that you might get an advanced look at it. It will be an American flag only. When I asked him the size, he didn't really have a ready answer. Bruce and I were looking them up because I thought it was a 2-to-1 ratio, and it's not quite a 2-to-1 ratio, though, the height to the length. So it's 4x6, and there's I think 5x8 and a 6x10. So I learned something today because I did not know that. So he doesn't see it being bigger than a 6x10. We acknowledge it doesn't have to be a certain height so that it's not hitting a building, that it has the appropriate room to it be at full mast if the wind's blowing, or to drape appropriately. So that's the request. If anyone has any questions, it will be illuminated, but it'll be uplit just on the flag itself for the appropriate nighttime lighting as required.
Just for reference, the power lines and utility lines, how high are they, I guess?
I can't, I don't know.
Oh, you don't know? Okay.
Offhand.
I was just curious.
Yeah,
and-
that's an interesting question, and I didn't even think to check.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's gonna be a little deceptive too, because those are out at the street front.
Mhm.
So when you look at this, the lines are down here.
Okay.
And at the toe of the slope,
Mhm.
and then they're looking at putting it up in
Okay.
this vicinity, really, because they bumped this out for the drive-through for the Thomaston Bank. It doesn't show on this particular aerial. But it's basically the flagpole is going to be up in here, tucked up against the building.
Okay. Well,
So
that
is it
makes
gonna be higher than the building?
It will, because the building peak is at 30. So if we go with a 40-foot pole, then it's at,
Yeah, but you
Ten.
just asked them to bring it to 35.
I did ask them to bring it to 35. They agreed, and it would still be, it's not going to conflict because it's so far, there's this width, this landscape width is quite high, and then or quite wide, excuse me. And it's just the peak is at 30, right? So this eve is at 15-ish.
Where are the lights? Are they aiming up at the flag from the base?
Correct. Yeah, it'll be just an uplight for the flag itself. Again,
And-
it's required.
Any hours or anything? Like it'll be on all the time or?
Well, I think by federal requirements, the light, if the flag is up, then it needs to be lit.
It has to be a little bit.
As long as it's,
Or you have
At
to-
night.
I did not know that.
Yes.
Or you have to take
I'm
it
in
down at
Mill Green,
night.
right?
Or you,
Right.
or it has to be raised and lowered every day
Right.
and lowered by sunset.
Right.
I learn something every day.
Which is a challenge in December.
Yeah.
I'm just, the only thing I'm curious about, isn't like during the good days, it's like if they're required to go to half mast. Is, like, you've been out there, is there gonna be enough room where the flag's not gonna hit the building? You know what I mean?
I didn't even think of that.
That's the only thing
Well,
I'm
and
thinking
half
of.
isn't truly at half, right? Half is like 2/3.
2/3.
Mm.
Like, I just don't wanna see it getting caught on a gutter or something. and
Right,
shredded, you know?
So this is in the CR zone. And CR zone, the maximum building height is 40 feet. That's permitted in the CR zone. So it's a flag, so I hadn't thought about the half. mast.
I'll take your word for it, and I'm not worried about it. I was just something to think about, like, if
No.
he's gonna go with a 6x10 and it starts getting hit on,
Correct.
you know what I
No, we
mean?
don't want- Yeah.
So he might have to go with a 5x8.
So and just
just
go
to
Right.
prevent it.
Well, or just go to the 40.
That's a big flag.
Well,
Or the
just go to the
40,
40.
40-foot pool.
Just leave it at the 40.
Shannon, what was the reason of your asking for them to reduce it to 35?
It was just the visual, it just seemed perhaps out of scale with the building, so that was the thought, but I hadn't. And so looking at the position at full height, I figured we were okay, and I did not think about the half mast, that it might be issue at half mast.
Can we see the top view again?
I was gonna say Noah Wallace's flagpole. I don't know how tall it is, but it is.
Right.
Is that
It's a-
probably
I mean,
40?
and it's a- I don't, I'm not.
Because it's a
disputing
two-story
anybody's-
building.
And it's just the American flag, they're not putting another.
Mhm.
So this is, you want this, I'm sorry.
That's-
Richard,
no,
this-
that's what I'm
this-
looking
or
for.
I'm not sure.
Right.
Dave,
Just-
lost
yeah.
track of who asked, but this site plan view or the aerial view?
This is good.
Fine.
Yeah, I'm just worried about our flagpole being so close to a building. Just,
I think he's gonna push it out to the edge, so this edge, this all in here is landscaping. So I think he's gonna push it out, and it's about, Bruce and I measured it today based on the plans we had, it's about 16 feet from the face of building to the face of curb.
Okay.
16 feet?
16.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
One
Then
foot.
that should be.
16
Then he's
feet
fine.
from
Yeah, yeah.
face of building, yeah, so.
oh, okay.
Okay.
One more thing I was wondering is do we have anything customary when the American flag is being raised? Is 40 feet or 40, not, what was the measurement?
So 40
Yeah,
feet's
is
the
it
request. I don't know. I think it has to do with the surroundings and what you're looking, I couldn't tell you the height. We've got the flagpoles out front and in ours, we've got the 3 flagpoles, so, and they've got to be at the staggered, so it has to be high enough that you can stagger them appropriately, et cetera, so.
I don't think there's a standard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there is a standard, but,
No.
okay, no requirements or no
I'm all for
regulations.
flying an American flag. I just wanna make sure it doesn't get shredded.
Well, that's why I'm thinking we would just leave it at the 40 feet and just,
And it,
for the sake of 5 feet, I don't know that it makes all that.
and a big flag is very expensive.
Yes, yes, they are.
And can we ask
Sure.
the size be reasonable?
Yeah, yes, yeah, he didn't offhand, he wasn't sure what size, and again, I said, 6, he doesn't see it going bigger than 6 by 10.
That's
I think what he sees a 6x10.
Well, and that's it, so part of
Right.
it is the wind load and the foundation, so that's gonna drive, the size of the flag will drive the foundational needs as well as
Oh,
the
that's a good
height of
point.
the pole,
Hadn't
so
thought about that one.
the higher the pole and the bigger the flag, the bigger the foundation. Right, because it's the wind load, right, on that, pulling on it, so it's not, you just don't, oh, hey, this looks good. There starts to be a wind load, and you'll hear it, with a flag of that size, you'll hear it snap,
Yeah. Mhm.
so.
Interesting, okay.
I'm in close proximity to one, so I'm familiar. If we go out in the backyard, we can hear it snapping. So if there's no, it doesn't seem like there's really any objection, just go ahead, handle it, and so I'll work through these details, with him, but yeah, it falls, and if anyone's interested, it does fall and shows up in our regulations under Article 7 with our signs. Sorry, Article 4, Section 7 with our sign regulation. So there are things there, but it does that, they're permitted, flagpoles are permitted as of right. But given that it was a commercial use and somewhat prominent, I wanted to make you folks aware.
Okay.
Okay, next one up, the Winchell Smith Dam,
Yes. This is
or
exciting.
AKA the Gristmill Dam, or the Miss Porter's Dam, now that the Porter's admin building is there. It goes by a variety of names, so we'll go to an aerial view real quick on this. FRWA, Farmington River Watershed Association, with headquarters in Simsbury, along with Connecticut DEP, the Fisheries Division, got in contact with the town of Farmington and Miss Porter's to discuss the removal of the Winchell Smith Dam, which is its formal name. And it is a timber crib dam, and it is filled with boulders. So there's actual timber cribbing, how it was formed, and then there's boulders, large boulders within it to formulate the dam. The top layer has already deteriorated and knocked off long ago. Back in 2007, they had looked at it and thought about doing like a formal fish passage through here. And now the funding never came through. There's a variety of things that had taken place since the early 2000s. Now the dam has continued to deteriorate, obviously. And really the best measure at this point is removal. And DEEP is looking to remove these dams to improve fish passage and also to improve recreation or boating on the river. This is not the only location they're looking to do this. It's discussed, and I'm sure folks have heard a variety of dams in the area starting to come down with DEEP's guidance and oversight. So this is before us, in that town staff as well as Miss Porter's have been reviewing plans, and every so often, right, it ebbs and flows as these things do with us. And the latest is pretty much a full set of plans and engineering report regarding the hydraulic analysis of the impact of the dam removal, if you will. And they are going to come in, everything will be accessed from the town of Farmington property, so the left bank or the west bank, and come in over by the sewer treatment plant through the farm fields and around, and they will set up on the west bank. All the construction activity will take place here, so there's no disruption to the Porter's admin building. Or quite honestly, we've got a sewer line, a very old sewer trunk line that runs through there. So it was for multi-purpose to access everything from the west bank. The abutment that is on the east bank, that is part of the foundation for the old mill building, will remain. So they are going to put some stone armoring around that to offer additional protection. The boulders from the dam itself, the cribbing will be removed, but then the boulders are going to be reset within the river to offer what they refer to as a riffle effect. So that sound that you're used to hearing for the dam, or at the dam location, and kind of that babbling brook noise, at times roaring when it's a flood. But that is going to be left in place. It offers some protection for fish too, as they're traveling upstream. They come in behind the rocks, get a little reprieve as they go on to the next area as they're trying to come upstream. So the abutment on the west bank is being removed in totality. There'll be no further need for it. It is not providing any structural effect for anything other than it had been for the dam itself, which will no longer be needed. And Porter's had requested that it be removed from aesthetic standpoint as you're standing at their deck and patio area looking across. If there's no need to look at a concrete abutment anymore that's not serving a purpose, then they'd prefer to have it removed. It is not in a historic district, so it's in the water. It is not a historic, it is a historical structure, but it is deep is within their purview to have it removed. This was shared with the Historic District Commission last week so that they are aware. The Inland Wetlands Commission was notified last week as well. And we've had additional conversations with DEP's wetland advisory people that we work with. And as part of the Connecticut General Statute, there is no permitting required for the dam removal. So we knew if there was an enforcement order from DEP, then the governing body resides with DEP. It is not with our local inland wetlands. And they also showed us, we're further down in that same Connecticut General Statute, when it's a removal, that also resides with DEP. It is not with a local body. We then had a subsequent follow-up question with respect to whether there's a public comment period or public hearing with DEP. And they're still reviewing this matter, but they believe it may fall within one of their general permits. And if it does, then there would be no public comment period. They are within their full right to come in and remove it. With that said, they've been very agreeable to working with the town of Farmington and Porters. They have not been, they've been very agreeable. They've let us know and be part of the process the entire time. So, and obviously they'll need access rates to come in through our farm field to come in and access this for the removal. So they do, to a certain extent, do need to cooperate with us for that. So if there's any questions, I can share, well, this was posted. This was posted online. So the documents are there if you want to download them. So there's the plans that I've shared on the screen this evening, along with some profile information. And then there is a report. The report's 100 pages or so.
Yeah.
It's really the first 20-ish.
Started looking at it.
20 to 20-ish pages are the report itself discussing the history, what they've looked at, why they're doing this, the wetland delineation that they've done. The rest of it is the hydraulic analysis, then all the calculations that are perhaps less meaningful. Even us, I've looked through some of it and I'm enough to understand, you know, certainly what they're talking about. But if you had interest in the report, it's really just about a 20-ish page read. So it's not too bad.
I'm wondering where the funding's coming from. That would be state and DEP.
It is coming from penalties received by DEP.
Oh,
So are
interesting.
fines that then are repurposed into projects like this.
Wonderful.
So
That's good.
yes,
Okay.
I
Fine
don't know
and-
the specifics, nor is it really,
Okay.
you know, germane to us, but it is the use of fines that they have
Okay.
collected.
I'm curious how much it's gonna change the water flow once it's out.
So it's not, so the profiles are included, and that's actually what's up on my screen now. Let me see if I can get to the right section here so I can, because I did look at this in fair detail. So this is the longitudinal profile. And there are cross sections. Here you go.
I didn't really know.
There's water surface elevation indicators. So there's, and this is probably going to be easier to see on your own computer at home. but there's water surface elevation. So the top blue line is the 100-year flood, but then there's two blue lines that come in.
Yeah.
I've got too many. There's the existing, what they refer to is the 50% fish passage flow. WSEL is water surface elevation. So, and I am surmising contextually that that's the minimum, that's the flow elevation needed for 50% of the fish to be able to continue upstream or downstream. So you can see that there's, and this is at station, this is at station, no, hang on. It's not gonna regenerate for me. Approximately. Yeah, so this is station 21. So as you come downstream, I gotta get my down and up, right? Downstream, as you come back down towards the Pequabic, there is a differential with the elevation of about a foot and a half, and that gap starts to close. Easier to see on the cross sections. So it ends up being coincident. So it does, there is a little bit of a gap and then it closes. So they're not anticipating, and they're monitored that to understand the type of fish that are coming through here, and they will at the dam location on the plan and on the, I believe it's the longitudinal profile, it shows that they are going to smooth out a section of the bottom of the river so that it accounts for that flow that's needed, that minimum flow that's needed for the fish bypass.
Interesting, because a couple of years ago, when they installed rocks
Right,
further down by the
right.
fishing platform.
Right,
So it's
right,
shuffling rocks around.
right. No, absolutely. Yes. Yep.
So I have a few questions, Shannon. I'm sorry if I'm being repetitive. So this project was initiated by DEP?
Correct. And FRWA, correct.
And then I know they mentioned things about fish, but did they also mention anything about the wildlife that has been expanded or created because of the dam? And now the dam removal is going to affect the wildlife, let's say beavers or?
Again, I don't think the impoundment isn't significant enough, and the change in the water surface elevation isn't significant enough to have an impact from a wildlife standpoint.
Okay.
Because the impoundment, it's not like we're taking down a 10 or 20-foot dam, right? So that impoundment area is going to be negligible when we're looking at it from a water surface elevation in that backwater area.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that a little bit, I'm assuming they're gonna time this with wildlife spawning periods.
Oh, yeah. No, they can only work in the river and during certain time periods, correct. So and they're hoping to do it in the summer,
During the dry season.
during dry season, which was
Dry-ish.
not so dry last year.
Right-ish.
So correct. So during low flow times, not during spawning.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, because I know Deep comes and posts all around the Farmington River, like, this is what a salmon looks like. Don't
Right.
Take it.
Right,
Yeah.
correct. No, that's, yeah, nope. They have to follow all the same requirements and regulations that everyone else does with respect to the timing of this work.
That's good to hear.
Do we know how old the dam is?
How old?
Like when it was built?
I would have to look that up. I would go back to the age of the grist mill.
Right.
Yeah.
With
Industrial.
Porter,
remember
so-
shooting that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. Porter's has all the history of the building because when they refurbished the building, they left the flywheel or that ran everything inside, that flywheel's still in the building. They kept the flywheel and the drop down. They closed off, obviously, the access all the way down to the river, but no, they did a wonderful job restoring that building.
Because he didn't build it, I know. He bought it.
No. Yeah, there's been mills somewhere along, basically in the Farmington stretch
Sure.
since colonial times,
Correct, you're right.
so.
Cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's, again, it's an FYI, as more information becomes available, I'll keep you folks updated, but and at this point, with the best of our knowledge, there's no real permitting, certainly none locally. I don't know that there'll be a public comment period. Okay. And then the final item that we had for discussion is the fur-bearing animals
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
in a residential
Yay.
zone.
Rabbits.
So this ties directly to one of the applications that was
Oh, you did.
recently
Oh.
discussed. And whether or not the commission would have any tolerance for or interest in a text amendment that would allow the raising of fur-bearing animals within a residential zone outside of the definition of farm, for not only the use of as a pet, but for the purposes of adopting or selling then those animals. So if there's at least an interest or tolerance, then staff can start to poke around with something, with the thought being that it would start to come in line similar to what was done for the chickens for poultry. There isn't a sale mechanism within that regulation, but we thought perhaps we could for eggs or even the chickens. I mean, at some point, the hens hit their useful life of laying eggs, and then they are
Soup.
They get to go to freezer camp.
they go to
Freezer camp.
freezer camp. Yes.
Awesome.
My son lived on a farm for a year in college, and the animals would, the chickens would go to freezer camp.
Go to freezer camp. There you go.
That is awesome.
That's
College students.
probably the best explanation I've heard in a long time.
Right.
I'll take it. So anyhow, I haven't really kicked around how all the hows and whys and parameters and all of that, but I think some of the limitations, right? Some of the limitations and protections, et cetera, that we have for chickens would certainly apply. We could narrow the definition for this for fur-bearing animals to limit it to rabbits. It doesn't have to be, I think we would perhaps want to limit it because when you look at the federal or state definition of fur-bearing animals, we're now looking at animals that are typically trapped on a regular basis. So I think we would want to perhaps not use that term or so, but what is the general? I know it was difficult. It was certainly a difficult application. It was hard discussion and decision process. Garrett and I have chatted with the homeowner a couple of times, most recently this past week. They were both the husband and wife were in to understand specifically the parameters better. So
I personally, I think, not that you guys have time to waste, but not waste, I shouldn't say it's the wrong word, but you don't have a whole lot of spare time, but it came up, it will come up again. I think the potential is there. So it might be worth spending some time to craft something that we can then we have something to go to. I don't know what other people feel.
I hate to put more work on you, but I
Well,
think,
no,
yeah.
but again, so the first question is it something you even want to allow?
Mm.
So that's the first question,
There you go.
right? So that's
Yeah.
so
Well, here's the
just
thing.
because somebody asked the question does not mean we have to say yes.
Right.
Good point.
So that's really the first kind of benchmark, and I don't need an answer tonight.
Mhm.
We gave the homeowner a year
Mhm.
to come into compliance, as and I explained to him, I said on day 366, I'm not going there and going 1, 2, 3, 4. That's not my deal,
Mm.
right? It's to start to demonstrate general compliance. He hasn't shut down conversation. He's wanting to continue dialogue. I'm not, that's not what we do. So even this whole time frame, he's been reasonably compliant and cooperative, so I don't see why that would change. So,
May I ask a question here?
Absolutely.
You said the first step is to see whether we'd like to allow what? Raising of rabbits or
so
going beyond
raising
the
them
sun.
for the purpose of selling or adopting. So
I think it's two separate things.
Mm.
there's no way for me to really monitor. So it's not really going to be two separate things, because if somebody's saying, oh, I'm just adopting them, but I've got people coming to my home.
I was thinking the opposite, and I was thinking to possess. Like
Well,
the
we
chickens, but we already
We
established
did.
that.
We
That's
said
right.
yes.
Okay, never mind.
So
You're
the
right.
Possession,
Correct.
yes.
So
up
that's
to
not a
20.
problem. Correct.
So we
Okay.
said yes, up to 20.
Right, right,
Mm.
right.
Mhm.
And so that was it.
Right.
Period. So yes, you could have them up to 20,
But no, you can't sell them.
but you can't sell them. And
Is-
the breeding
Right.
then is, so you're not breeding them because you can't sell them, 'cause you can't go more than 20. Right? So
Right.
now,
Mhm.
it's, so that's the question is, right? So we said yes. And said these are the parameters. And I said, if you sell them at a fair, I don't really care. Go ahead and sell them at a fair. And again, I'm not there doing a count every time. So, but if all of a sudden there's 40 or 60 rabbits, somebody's probably gonna say something.
Right.
Right? So selling them at a fair, yeah, if there's 6 to 8, that's probably not gonna show up on my radar screen.
Right.
If there's 30 that you're now trying to unload at a fair, it's probably gonna show up on our radar screen.
Mm.
So, that's the question of, do you really want to start to allow this as a home business? No different than the person that has the chickens and are probably, some of them are give the eggs away, some of them sell the eggs, right? I'm not monitoring who's selling eggs.
Not,
It's who's giving
not to
them
open up a
delivery.
can of worms, but if this was a larger animal, would we be okay with this? If, I think the scope might be breeding too in the ordering hobby. If this was 20, 30 dogs, would be okay with that, cats,
Well, and
as a
that's why I
hobby.
think it's
Yeah.
gotta be defined. So I've used fur bearing because that's how it was allowed.
Mhm.
From a definition standpoint, because rabbits were included in the federal definition for
Right.
fur bearing. But I think if we are gonna go, it needs to be really specific. There is a portion of the regulation that already deals with dogs and kennels and
Okay.
whatnot, and
Mm.
I don't have it right at my fingertips, but it is there. So the dogs are handled separately. And then a horse is permitted on a property as long as you have 2 acres. You need 2 acres per horse, but then once you get to 5 acres, it's considered a farm. You
Yeah,
can't.
that was
classification.
one of my biggest concerns too. I don't know if he mentioned when he was speaking with us that he also had like 8 cats and a couple dogs too, and the parcel was very small.
Yep.
And
Mm.
I don't know if there's a acreage requirement that we can, I don't, like
Well, you can.
30 something rabbits and then
It's
20, it's,
right. You
yeah.
Start to,
yeah.
these are all the questions that start to come up.
I
So-
care about like the livelihood of the animals too, if they're in a cage their entire life.
Yes, and I don't
Yeah.
know. Again, I'm not familiar with
Yeah.
the
How do you
rabbit husbandry to.
Well, I don't know if you've seen rabbits in cages. I know a farmer that raises rabbits for
Hmm.
himself, and in his back, he has this, I guess it's his barn, and then he has a lot of cages with rabbits.
Yeah.
And that's their life,
Yeah.
he raises them for his family, to feed, the family. So, I mean, they're not like dogs that may stink or, that have large, poop.
Yeah.
Right? They're very small, they make no sound, very, innocent looking. So I don't know where I'm going with this, but, I guess there are many questions that if we can get guidance from you, that what questions that we need to think about and address, that'd be nice. I guess I'm still a little confused as to.
So part of, I think, Roger, perhaps your computer is, there was an application that came in and they.
Yes, I saw that on
So-
Zoom. Yeah, I
So
watched it.
the owner had the ducks and the rabbits, and so
Yeah.
then the commission was left with a difficult discussion of, okay, well, ducks, clearly we had a poultry regulation and the definition, and the rabbits less so. We were able to allow them from a fur-bearing standpoint, but there was no mechanism because they were breeding and selling the offspring. It was a business. When you look in our regulation under residential zone for home business, there are multiple criteria for a home business in a residential zone that it just cannot meet from a practical standpoint. So now the homeowner, or the resident has come back to us and said, okay, we get it. What else? Is there any other option? So that's the conversation then that I'm bringing forth, is that do you even want it? So again, just because somebody asks, you don't have to say yes, right? So the regulation's been in place as is. I'm not aware of any other fur-bearing applications that have for the commission. So is it something you even want to consider? And the something being to allow this as a business. Really, the buying and selling, the breeding and buying and selling on premise of rabbits. And then if you do, then we need to start to figure out, okay, what are the parameters? And then those parameters still may not be appropriate for his parcel. I think we have to look at it, and we'd have to look to see, we'd have to do research, just like Garrett did for the poultry regulation when we shifted from if you even have one chicken, you need a special permit to say, okay, no, if you have six or less, it's a registration with us, and anything up to 20 then needs a special permit with you folks and get some of those parameters in place. So again, that's the question being posed. We can look to see if there's even any other municipalities in the immediate Farmington Valley area that have anything, maybe as a first litmus test. But really the first question is, do we even want this? And again, it doesn't have, I'm not expecting a definitive answer this evening. This is to be a dialogue, like, think about it. We're getting some pushback, and we can take a look and see if there's any other community in the immediate vicinity. I'm seeing a wide range.
So that,
of
I
places.
guess that seems to make sense.
That's
to-
I think, a good
Yeah.
first step.
If we could actually, but look at comparable communities.
Well,
So
I was
some-
gonna, the Burlington, Canton, Avon, Simsbury. I can check West Hartford, but I doubt West.
No,
Hartford.
they don't even allow chickens.
Glastonbury. Hebron.
Granby's further out.
Granby.
It's pretty rural though.
Yeah.
Hard to hear, yeah.
So it
So-
seems like this was a one of a kind case.
Right.
Yeah.
So we don't need to, that hasn't, you said in your 20 years here,
Right.
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
we don't need to create a
Well, here-
regulation because we encountered one case that's anomaly.
Yeah.
I hate
Why don't
opening
we
the,
wait until, to see whether we're gonna get another one and when?
Right, why spend the energy?
It's a little difficult
Yeah.
from a reactive standpoint, so I
Right.
think
You get
we
kinda
need to,
painted
so we can
into a
see, we
corner.
can see if there's are any others.
And we had that home cook business. And literally the following month, we had.
We got another one,
identical.
right.
So it's
Mhm.
almost like, you know,
So
You know, that's not the same level of struggle, right? That the fur bearing thing.
no, but what I'm saying is like, it's almost like it's gonna be a magnet now. People are, you know what I mean?
It's out there.
We've
Yes,
opened
it's out there.
Pandora's box.
So my concern is it's essentially just like an unlimited ball of yarn, right? We set up a rabbit regulation and someone comes in with ferrets,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
You know, it's like, where do we draw the line?
Chinchillas,
The
yeah,
thing is,
guinea
it's like a
pigs.
sea of animals.
And then what happens to home, you know, the whole definition of a home business is that it's inside the house. And this has shifted it a little bit out now.
Right.
I worry
That's
about
true, too.
that. You know, do we want these
Right.
big businesses happening in people's yards?
Right.
Mhm.
I'm interested to see what else, how other towns have addressed this,
Or if,
but uh,
But I think you're right. I think
mean,
it's
you
easier
know-
to defend if you have something on the books.
well, I mean, and for us, it's just if it's not allowed, it's not, you can't, if it's not in the regulation, it's not permitted.
Right.
Period. But they asked, so I wanted to, I said I was agreeable to at least embarking on the conversation with you folks this evening, and it's as I'm talking out loud, right? I thought, oh, all right, well, we'll see if any of the other adjoining communities have anything. I just, as was talking with all of you, that thought came. to mind. Garrett can't wait for that next research.
There you go. You know, after the daycare, research. I don't know. At least they're cute. Rabbits are cute.
So,
Exactly.
okay, well, if there's any other thoughts, you can share them via email or wait till the next meeting. In the meantime, we'll take a look and see if there's anything illuminating in any of other regulations in our nearby communities, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
That was it. That's all I have for planners report this evening.
Any update on the West 34 West District appeal? Anything happen?
No, and that'll
Be a long thing.
that's gonna be a bit, there was a return date of April 6th, which required our legal team to respond. They already did. And then it'll sit with the court for a little bit to say, okay, this is what we're gonna do next. And then it provides action items for both parties. And then it goes back to the court. So it's a lot of back and forth. So,
So a few more months. Okay.
yes.
Any update on Scott Swamp, the rehab center?
No, that interestingly has been quiet.
Oh,
Okay.
That has gone very quiet. My guess is some of that has to do with interest rates and construction costs.
Mm.
And the condition of the building, and that it is not just an easy renovation of an existing building. So that has gone quiet, so. But, we've got a decent, plate ahead of us for April 8th. I think
Yes.
we've got 4 hearings on the 8th. We didn't accept any tonight, so the second meeting in April may be quieter unless there's stuff from the 8th that carries over or some new business items, but there'll be no new hearings on the 22nd based on, we didn't have any here this evening to accept.
Okay. And we're gonna have a quorum and everything. We're gonna meet.
I
Yeah,
think
they
I'm the
meet
only
to
one
be
gone.
fine, I think, yep.
Is
Dave's
that
the only one
someone?
that said
It's just
Okay,
me.
just you.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
just found out I'm not gonna be here on the 8th.
On the 8th too.
Okay.
My,
That's two.
my wife surprised me with the lunar eclipse, solar eclipse, whatever.
That's right. It is a big day.
It is,
So
It is the
going-
but that's in the daytime. Where are you going out?
we're going to Burlington, Vermont.
Ooh,
Oh, nice.
Oh, wow.
nice path to go.
I didn't know until like yesterday.
Oh, I have an update. Dave and myself attended the CROG meeting.
Oh,
Pretty interesting.
Oh.
But we are working on a new set of regulations. Every 10 years, they have to update.
But they're plan of conservation.
Yeah, so
Could you
that's,
please explain what the meeting is? I don't know what CROG meeting is.
so it's, I'm gonna mess up the
Capital
acronym. here.
Region.
Capital
Org-
Region Council of Government.
Oh,
So it's representatives from the major towns. I want to say there's like 13, 14 of them. And it's kind of just a regional, similar to zoning. I don't think they have any real statutory authority, but more of a guidebook.
They do, and they have statutory authority for us for applications. So when we have subdivision and Garrett, it's within 500 feet of the 500